Call Scott Simpson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. As Chair of the Justice and Electoral Select Committee, it's a great pleasure for me to rise and speak in support of this, the third reading of the Victims of Crime Reform Bill, in the name of the Minister of Justice, the Honourable Judith Collins. Sir, following Andrew Little's contribution, I'm very pleased to hear that the Labor Party are going to support this piece of legislation, because so often in the history of that party's time in government, they haven't in fact supported victims or victims' rights. Mr Little is of course correct when he makes the point that our criminal justice system is an adversarial system. It is a system that is based on the contest of evidence and cases, and that's a system, sir, that has proved us well and our system well. But over the years, it has not catered well for victims. Too often in our criminal justice system, sir, the victims are the forgotten players in the courtroom, and for too long victims have not had an opportunity to have their views properly expressed and properly recorded, both for the court, for the public and of course for offenders. And so, sir, this piece of comprehensive and innovative legislation is a very significant step forward in terms of correcting the non-involvement of victims in our criminal justice system. I'm pleased also, sir, to note that from the second reading that New Zealand First, I think, are supporting this legislation, and I'm pleased that they are also supporting the rights of victims in our criminal justice system. So, sir, this is an omnibus bill which amends the Victims' Rights Act of 2002, the Children and Young Persons and Their Families Act of 1989, and the Parole Act of 2002, and of course the Sentencing Act of 2002 also. Our government, sir, was elected back in 2008 with a mandate to improve our justice system, and particularly to improve the lot of those who find themselves the victims of crime and who are not in our criminal justice system by any act other than by mere accident or partly to blame for being just there in the wrong place at the wrong time, perhaps. Nothing more complicated than that. So one of the key aspects of this legislation, sir, is to make significant changes in the role of the victim impact statement. And the role of the victim impact statement has been a good part of our criminal justice system in recent years, but there is an opportunity, and this legislation does it very nicely, to extend the role in a way that makes the statement far more meaningful for the victim. And so we're going to widen the scope and provide victims of serious offences with the right to read their statements out in court and to present a statement in whatever form really suits them. So this, sir, could include pictures or graphics or poems or a whole range of other methods just than the written word. And so whilst legislation, sir, can never legislate away the pain and suffering faced by victims, this bill will go a long way to help ensure that victims are not re-victimised by their participation in the process that we call our criminal justice system. And so this is just another piece of legislation, sir, as part of a suite of new bills that have been introduced by Judith Collins and the Justice team on this side of the House that will focus clearly and make no apology for doing so in putting victims first in our criminal justice system. And, sir, it's very good to note that since coming to government in 2008, crime is at record lows, that the number of serious criminal offences are at lows, and that the job that this government has been doing has been a very fine one. And, sir, it's a tribute to the Minister, it's a tribute to this government, and it's a tribute to the foresight and innovative imagination of a government that really does put victims first, that we can bring this legislation to the House, that it can be widely supported across the House, and it deserves to be passed, sir. I fully and totally commend this legislation to the House.
Honourable Marianne Street.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It gives me great pleasure to rise to follow the Chair of the Justice and Electoral Select Committee, whom I consider to be a very capable chairperson. But I rise to speak to the Victims of Crime Reform Bill and the four pieces of legislation into which it has been divided. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker,